I think a key job of every leader is their ability to create context for everyone involved in the company. Who are we? Why do we exist? What are we trying to achieve? How do we create value? Where do we see ourselves in the future? Right? Who do we want to be and become? Really critically, how do we close that gap between where we are today in our development and who we aspire to be? And how do we measure our performance, right? What do we track? What do we pay attention to that tells us how we're doing along the journey? That's what I mean by creating context. Now, each of us takes in data from the environment differently, right? And the job of a leader is to paint a picture, to create that context so that everybody sees the same reality. And it's never perfect, right? Especially challenging against constantly changing internal and external conditions. But as a leader, you got to put time and effort into creating shared context, shared consciousness across your entire organization. And in this video, I want to show you a unique way to do that using the organizational physics one-page strategic execution plan. Let me show you how it works. On my screen, it is an example of the organizational physics one-page plan. And there's a couple things that make this approach to creating context a little unique. One is this plan is built using surveys. We feel it's really critical that when you're in the planning process or any decision-making process, that you take the time to poll, to survey, to seek perspective from those who are going to be impacted downstream by the decision itself upstream, right? So in organizational physics parlance, that's called gathering the mass. And so this plan is built actually by 4 different surveys are used to gather the mass around what we should do and why. The next thing that makes this plan unique is that we like to teach, and we're big believers in pictures. So not everything can be a picture, but there's a couple key areas of the business that I think are really important to use pictures to educate your team around. And the first is in this right column of the plan at the top called the entropy map. Entropy is a measure of things falling apart, right? And so we want to know where the entropy is or the energy drains in the business are occurring so that as a team we can go and attack those, plug the leaks, right? So for instance, in this company, you can see they have high entropy. That's the bigger peak in the area of processes and systems, throughput in production. Seems to be impacting their ability to have good metrics and insight. And it looks like they have a little bit of a staffing, recruiting, retention problem. The details of what's driving those are captured in the survey itself. But what I want to do is paint a picture for the team to understand that, hey, our business has finite energy and time. Here's where the entropy or the leaks are occurring. We want to drive operational excellence, and we're going to do that by focusing on the biggest peaks first. So that's a really important concept to educate everyone in the business around. Another key picture that we like to use is the strategy map. So this is all about life cycle theory, and the strategy map shows how well aligned your business or any business units are against 3 critical life cycles: or the customer life cycle, the product life cycle, and the execution life cycle. Now, this map won't make a lot of sense to your employees, but that's exactly the point. You got to have the wherewithal to teach and educate them about this plan. It's not very hard, but you can use a visual to say, okay, guys, so here we are, and mid-nail it, right? We have some entropy gumming up the works of our company. That's reflected above here. So what we need to do is we need to reduce entropy and drive the business to really truly nail it, right? Systematize how we sell, service, and deliver so that we can get into scale. And in order to do that, we're going to pursue these 3 or 4 or 5 key strategic imperatives. Those imperatives are listed down here in this part of the plan, and they're just headlines, right? They're trying to capture attention. They're there for everyone in the company to understand and rally around. And of course, you break those 3-year strategic imperatives down into annual goals with an owner for each goal. And then you can further cascade those down into quarterly objectives and key results that move the strategy forward. But really what I want you to take from this video is that in order to create context for your company, you got to educate, right? You got to create a narrative, and pictures are sometimes the best way to do that. And that's what we're trying to do in this particular plan. Now, each section of this plan is built using, I mentioned, a survey module. This section of the plan is called your company core. This is your core identity, core philosophy. It's, who do we want to be and become, and why do we exist? The top part of this plan I just talked about is the entropy map that's created with the entropy survey. The bottom part of the plan is the strategy map, and that's created using the top level OKR survey. And the bottom left part of the plan is your key targets, milestones, key performance indicators, and that's created using the targets and KPIs module. So, to recap, your job as a leader is to create context. If you're a wise leader, you'll take the time and energy to seek perspective, to gather the mass from a critical number of key influencers and other leaders in your organization. And by doing that, you'll make a better decision, right? Because you're getting in more data inputs. But really importantly, you'll have gathered the mass in so people participate in the planning process, right? Doesn't mean we take everyone's ideas in, right? We just hear them, we see them, we choose the best ideas, we create the best context possible. And because people have a chance to participate in that process, their commitment to drive forward the plan will be much, much higher. We're trying to help you create context in your organization by teaching some of the principles of organizational physics, like finite energy and time, like the entropy map, like the strategy map, so that everybody has the same awareness, right? You've done a really good job of building shared consciousness in the organization. And as conditions change, you update the plan. And the first time you build the plan, it takes a little bit of effort, but the second and third time, unless there's a major environmental shift, it gets much easier and much faster. Maybe the only other thing to add here is if you're a little hesitant about asking your leadership team to complete 4 different surveys, I get it. The secret here is prior to your strategic planning offsite, right? Prior to going in to build this plan, about 4 weeks out, send them 1 survey a week. It'll take them 20, 35 minutes to complete each survey. So it is a lift, right? You are asking people to put their sincere time and effort into answering each survey. And this is important stuff, right? I would argue, like, what's more important than that? Take a little bit of time each week to answer some questions. And then when you go into your offsite planning process, you'll have all the data there. The system makes it all very easy for you to organize it and get those insights you're seeking. Also, if you don't like this particular format of plan, it's no problem. You can still use the artifacts in here in your own wiki or Coda doc or Evergreen strategic planning doc if you like a longer version of a plan that's more narrative. Okay, so create context. This is the organizational physics 1-page strategic execution plan. It contains 4 modules. You survey your leadership group, you get the data back, you build your plan, and you'll find your ability to create shared consciousness in your organization is much better. Thanks for listening. Appreciate your time.